Welcome to Fully Booked, the bookish podcast where I'll chat about all things book and reading related. Whether you're a new or a pro reader, there's something for everyone to learn. I'm here to help you on your reading journey and find that next great read that will keep you fully booked. Hello, readers, and welcome to episode 41 of Fully Booked. I'm your host, Natalie, and today's episode we're going to be talking about some recent favorite books that I've enjoyed that I believe should be adapted to the screen. Now, I feel like this is always a fun topic to talk about because I know I did do a pretty recent episode on books that are being adapted and have been picked up for production and whatnot. But I feel like it's always fun to imagine books getting adapted to the screen. I guess also another note is that I feel like there just aren't as many good original TV shows and movies coming out within the past couple of years based on original screenplays, which maybe that's an issue that needs to be addressed in the film and media industry in general. But it does open a great opportunity for the publishing industry and film industries to kind of collaborate and merge together and create some really good storytelling on the screen. But before we dive in further, those of you who are watching right now are probably wondering why my filming background is completely different than the normal desk and couch setup that you usually see that I have going on. And that is because I'm temporarily house sitting for my parents right now. I'm also kind of plant sitting and taking care of the herbs and all the plant pots that they have going on in the back of their house. So yeah, that is why I have a different filming background for now. And I have to say, so far it's been nice being back at my parents' house. Anyways, I want to do a quick dog of the day for you guys again before we actually get started. Although I will say today's is going to be a little bit boring because first off, drink. Literally just have water in my 32-ounce Awala water bottle. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, then you've probably seen the last 2 monthly hopeful posts that I've made, including mention of 75 Soft, which is a version of the 75 Hard Challenge. And part of 75 Soft is drinking 3 liters of water every day, which I have been failing the past couple of days. So water bottle helps me stay on track with that, and we're trying to get back on track. And then outfit, I'm literally just wearing, I'm pretty sure this is the same shirt I was wearing in the last video episode that I uploaded. It's literally just my book club t-shirt, except it's written in French. And I have to admit, guys, I do want to get more bookish merch. I think it's just kind of hard to find t-shirts or sweaters that I like in terms of the style, and I like things to be comfortable. But I was looking for a Magnolia Parks, or rather a Daisy Hates t-shirt or sweater recently to see if I could find anything. And I found one site or company. They're called House of Jupiter. You guys might have heard of them if you're also into online bookish merch, but they have a lot of cute stuff, a lot of cute merch in general, but they have a great selection for Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates, and they have a t-shirt which has the sparkling laundrette on it, and it says Baby Hates. Maybe I'll throw the picture up if I can find it. And they just restocked and got smaller sizes back in stock, because that was the reason I hadn't bought it yet, is because they only had it in I think size large the last time I looked, which would be way too big even if I wanted to wear it as a loose fitting lounge or pajama shirt. But they restocked the smaller sizes, so now that it's back in stock, I might get that. Otherwise, so for books, I'm excited thinking a little bit about it because last night I actually just finished A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang, and I'm not going to give any of my thoughts on that book because that review is going to be coming in the future episode that you guys can watch out for. But I guess the only thing I will say is that just as it was recommended to me by a friend, I am now going to be recommending that book to any of my friends and family, especially if you're looking to pick up, start getting into fantasy, and especially if you like more historical fiction. I think it would be a really good book for you. And then other than that, I'm still reading The Ministry of Time. I'm about 2/3 of the way through that book, and This is a little sad to say. I'm kind of not enjoying the book as much as I was at the beginning. I feel like the first third, the premise was interesting enough for me, and I was really getting through the story of this book, but the pacing kind of got weird in the middle. It slowed down, and this is kind of a weird sci-fi book where, it's not one that like there's this crazy plot and like world and like politics going on in this book. It's more almost like I would say sci-fi and slice of life type book. Yeah, it's kind of a hard book to describe, and I'm kind of sad that I'm not enjoying it as much because I've seen so many people rate this book 5 stars and it was one of their favorites from last year. But we'll see how the rest of it goes. But anyways, let's actually start talking about some of these books and series. And if I'm looking off to the side, it's because I have my laptop in front of me with like all the books and notes written down just to be able to refer to. And it's funny that I mentioned getting the Daisy Hates t-shirt or sweater because the first series that I actually wrote down on this list that I think should be adapted is the Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates universe. Now, I think this one's pretty obvious that all of the fans would love to see an adaptation for this one, and I definitely think it should be a TV show. Just because of the way that Jessa writes the books, and how do I describe it? I don't know how describe like why there's a difference between like choosing to adapt for a movie versus a TV show and like the feeling that books give off. But if most of you guys who are watching or listening right now are readers, then I think you kind of get what I mean, that certain books just kind of give off a certain feel depending on how like the storyline progresses and is told. I think for some reason too, books that are told with multiple POVs just make for better TV shows. Also because like, yeah, it can be cool to like see an episode from each of the characters like perspectives and kind of do this back and forth, and it makes it more, I guess, dynamic for the viewer, yeah, to watch and see the story unfold on the screen. Yeah, this one's interesting because also this is the only one I had a fan cast written down for. I don't really keep up with TV shows and movies over the past couple of years. And so as a result, I don't really know a lot of newer and up-and-coming actors and actresses. But I was going to say, I feel like this series would be so hard to cast in general, even if it were to be picked up for production, because, for you guys who have also read these books, then you'll know that Jessa describes her characters to a T. Like, it's almost as if she created a blueprint or like an entire character summary for every single character that she writes in these books, where she describes their hair color, their eye color, their height, I don't know, the way they smile lopsided or crookedly or have dimples, their skin tone, and then even the types of clothes that they're always wearing. Like if they're always wearing Vans or Converse or whatever brands because they're rich socialites in these books. So she's very specific, and I feel like there's not going to be certain actors or actresses that are 100% going to fit the bill of the physical descriptions from these books. But it's hard because she was so specific for every single character. I know there are probably going to be some fans, including myself, that are going to get a little disappointed if the actors and actresses that they choose don't really fit the bill. I think specifically for Magnolia, I would say they have to get the casting right, which is hard because I feel like dark skin and the light green eye combination is not super common to find. The only actors that I had written down for this series were it's actually the girl, or sorry, I don't know who she plays in this series, but it's one of the actresses from the Gossip Girl reboot. Her name is Whitney Peaks, which I also believe she was also casted for Sunrise on the Reaping, which is coming out in 2026. So that's interesting. So partly how I found her. But yeah, then when I realized she was in the Gossip Girl reboot and I looked at pictures of her, her skin tone obviously definitely fits Magnolia's character. And then I guess honestly, if the actors and actresses don't quite fit the bill, I guess at the least they could wear color contacts. That was the only thing I was thinking, if like, they can find someone who's close enough looking to each of the characters. And then I don't know if this one's that good, but I actually thought potentially Joe Alwyn Taylor's ex-boyfriend, could play Christian. Because yeah, I was just trying to find someone who had blonde hair. And I think I can't remember Joe Alwyn's American or British right now, but yeah, there was something to look about him that he could potentially be Christian. I don't know if he quite has the look, but he was the only actor I could find or like that popped into my head. But yeah, again, I definitely see this as a TV show. I think it could just be interesting that they could take this show in like kind of two directions where most of you probably know everyone compares this series to Gossip Girl. Everyone says it's the London Gossip Girl in a book form. And it's like reading like reading a reality TV show. So it could be taken more that direction, kind of more entertaining, kind of comical and ridiculous. And it could be more, I don't know, lighthearted. But I actually feel like it should be taken the other direction where I don't know how to describe these books sometimes to people because I'm personally one of those people that I always say this series is not actually like Gossip Girl. Like besides the fact that they're rich upper class and again they are out of touch with reality, a lot of the stuff and the way the storyline progresses and the character relationships does not really remind me of Gossip Girl, although I never finished watching the whole Gossip Girl series. I only watched season 1 and I stopped, but from what I saw I just didn't really think they had the same vibe, and the way Jessa writes is so beautiful and immersive that it just doesn't necessarily remind me of Gossip Girl trashy reality TV vibes. It actually kind of reminds me of more, not normal people exactly, but kind of like that, I guess that more just serious vibe, which is why I feel like A24 could actually take Magnolia Parks and make it like more of like, again, kind of serious, more cinematic. And I think it would be really cool, especially because I think they could do a really good job with the music in this show. Yeah, they could just take it in such a cool direction. Yeah, I think if A24 produced it and they were to go that route. I don't know if I'm in the minority when I say this, because again, so many people make that comparison, but I guess you can think what you want. Anyways, so the next series that I wrote down that I think should be adapted is none other than the Inheritance Games novels by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I think this is another one that's also a lot of fans have expressed interest in seeing it picked up for adaptation, which is unfortunate because from what I read online, it actually was picked up and was supposed to be in early development to be produced by Amazon and Sony TV. I think, yeah, it might have been a Prime show, but unfortunately, there have been no updates on this since 2020. And it's really sad when, I was about to say shows, when books get picked up for production and then years pass and no updates, nothing has happened with it. And then I guess those projects eventually just get canceled because I know, at least on the fan side, like we would love to see an adaptation come to life. I think, yeah, with like the adventure and the puzzles, family drama and secrets in that one would make such a good show. And especially because obviously they can do the thing where each season can be a book in the series. So they could probably do 3 or 4 seasons of a show with this series. The only thing though is I don't know how they would adapt it or whatnot for each season because I still haven't read it yet, but I do know that, or at least from my understanding, the brothers Hawthorne, I always get the names mixed up, the 4th book of the series, the timeline technically takes place between the 2nd and the 3rd book, or it kind of overlaps a bit between the timelines in those 2 books. So it's not really an epilogue, but it's not really a prequel book either. It's it's an in-between book in terms of the timeline, so I'm not really sure how they would adapt that book, if they would do it as a separate season, or what they would do, or maybe just blend it into, like, the 2nd and 3rd books somehow. Again, I haven't read the book, so I can't say this with 100% certainty, but that's my understanding, at least right now. But yeah, again, it's very sad that there have been no updates on this one, because I know that after I read the original trilogy last fall, I instantly saw it as a TV show, and definitely something I would watch. I feel like I've still been craving a series that's like this, that kind of has that fun, kind of whimsical puzzle element that, yeah, just keeps you kind of guessing. I just haven't really read anything like it since then. Hey readers, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far, and hear me out before you hit skip. I'm so grateful for all my listeners who are with me on this reading journey, and I'd like to ask that if you haven't yet, please leave a rating and review as it helps others find the podcast. Also, please consider supporting the podcast financially as it helps me bring you more exciting content, and you'll get some extras like bonus and subscriber-only episodes, early access to new episodes, and much more. The link to donate will be in the show notes below, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/fullybookedpod. Thank you so much again for choosing to listen to Fully Booked, and now back to the episode. So the third book that I have written down that I think should be adapted is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I think this one might be a bit of a less obvious one, but to me, it personally just stood out because of the podcast and Netflix documentary element. And I think especially if you listen to this one on audio, then you'll know what I mean, because they made very realistic sound bites and interview clips and like different audio elements with the audiobook that made it sound, like an actual Netflix documentary or TV show. It was just so cool. The sound production, was just really great on this audiobook. I think this is a book that I read exclusively on audio too. I didn't hybrid read it or read it at all on physical or as an ebook. So I think that's why the audio elements just stuck with me so much, and why I was able to just, picture it then being adapted and being on the screen. I think it'd just be really cool. I don't have much more to say on this book besides that, except that, of course, the obvious choice would be that Netflix picks it up for production, which would also be kind of meta. But yeah, just makes the most sense. I feel like for some reason too, Netflix just has the monopoly, at least to me, and does the best job with adapting or producing any mystery thriller movies or TV shows. So I think this one could be really good if it ever gets picked up. All right, this is interesting because the next two that I wrote down are actually novels that I read pretty recently within this year. And the first one I wrote down is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. Other people have probably brought it up at some point already this year, but this is one that I 100% saw. Like even, I think within the first couple chapters of the book, I could just picture certain scenes in my head very vividly. I think this one is also similar to Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates, though, where some of the scenes and the way characters were written and stuff were very specific. So specific that, like, the adaptation would have to be very rigid, as in they wouldn't be able to stray too much from the book, or I just don't see how they could, and still keep it, like, authentic enough and that, the fans who are watching are gonna enjoy the adaptation. Because she was very specific with descriptions, like every skating outfit that Heath and Katarina would wear in their competition, and even the choreography for each and every song. Actually, I think she listed every song that they skated to when there was like a competition scene in this book. And then with that, she would talk about like the choreography that they had come up with and whatever lifts and maneuvers that they were doing together in that scene. So I feel like it'd be hard. And of course, this would also be a little hard to adapt because they would need to find actors who have some experience with skating or enough that they can then be trained further. Or I guess go the other way around, find skaters who have some acting experience or could just, I don't know, somehow appear in this adaptation. I feel like sports movies are kind of hard because it's like they have to find actors and actresses that they could be willing to train and probably do it in like a certain time period to be able to get filming started and just all of that. I actually have no clue how they do these types of movies where this certain expertise is needed. I guess it's pretty impressive, honestly, in a sense. And honestly, I again could not come up with fan casting for this, but I was actually reading an article where I think the author herself said that she wanted apparently this guy named Brandon Perea, I don't know if I said that right, to play Heath. And apparently he's an actor, but he's also a professional jam skater, which I looked up is a combination of dance, gymnastics, and roller skating. So I guess roller skating is a form of skating and could be translated to the ice. And I honestly do not know who could play Katarina because, again, I don't keep up with enough actresses. I just know that I pictured her as blonde, which I forget if earlier parts of the book said she was blonde in like the younger years and scenes in the book. But I do remember the later half of the book reading that she had blonde hair. So she does have blonde hair for at least part of the book. So yeah, that's the only thing. I picture her as being blonde personally. I definitely see this as a TV show, especially with like the interview, like scenes and clips that they had in this book. Which by the way, I'm kind of bummed that I did not listen to the audiobook for this one because just like the previous book that I talked about, this one probably would have been great on audio. And I think the scene I want to see most, obviously, I want to see all of or as many skating competition scenes as they can fit into the show. But specifically, the one that stuck out to me most when I was reading the book is there's a competition scene where they skate to Taylor Swift's The Last Time. And obviously, that's a song I actually know because some of the songs in the book I didn't know. But that's one I did know, and I could like hear it in my head as I was reading the scene. And yeah, I don't know. I was just able to visualize that one so much in the way she wrote the choreography in that scene. So yeah, I think at the least if they're gonna adapt the skating scenes, that's the one that I hope makes the cut. And then the next one, which I wrote down, which again, this one's very recent, is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, which is her latest release. I guess RIP. Added on top of all of the other Emily Henry books that need to be adapted, I also feel that her latest release should be adapted. And personally, I feel like this one read to me, at least, as a movie more than a TV show, just because I don't feel like there were enough elements and things going on with the plot and the characters that would translate it to a TV show. Also, all of Emily Henry's books, I believe, are only told from one point of view. So I feel like without dual or multiple POV, yeah, there's just not as many elements and dynamic things going on that can be explored in a TV show, and therefore a movie just makes a lot more sense. For some reason, the biography element too also just screamed movie to me. I don't really know why. But yeah, this one's kind of recent, so I feel like I haven't had as much time to think about this one and like, you know, who or what streaming company should pick it up and whatnot. The only thing I would say, though, is that with this one, I think it would be interesting because they would have to change it in the sense that, I guess for those of you who haven't read the book, it kind of has these two different, I guess, narration styles, or it alternates where some of the chapters you get from the first-person POV of the FMC Alice, and then the other chapters or sections of the book are told through this objective kind of journalism lens where we focus in on Margaret's storyline and, yeah, specifically her family history, family tree, yeah, just all of the past stuff that happened with the House of Eves and whatnot. I feel like that objective lens doesn't really translate well for a screenplay and then, yeah, being adapted for the screen. So I feel like they would have to use flashbacks or something to like, yeah, make it more dynamic and personalized and interesting for the viewer to watch. Maybe that's just my opinion, or I don't know, maybe I'm not creative enough necessarily to know how books get adapted into screenplays and then to the screen and whatnot. But that's just my 2 cents. All right, so the next one that I have written down is, it's not any one book necessarily, but I literally just wrote down the rest of TGR's Hollywood series. So that includes Carrie Soto, Malibu Rising, and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And of course, I didn't include Daisy Jones on the list because that one's already been adapted and is out now. And these ones I see again all as TV shows. I think partly because Daisy Jones was just so successfully adapted for that format versus a movie. But then I do also remember that I listened to the audio books for Carrie Soto and Malibu Rising. And again, those ones just lended to TV show format, especially Carrie Soto, where that was another one where the sound production and audio, quality, everything was done very high quality, and they had sound bites and interview clips and stuff to make it sound like live sports coverage. So I think it would just be really well done as a TV show, and it's kind of sad because I think all of TJR's books, like the ones I just mentioned, have been picked up for production. Like there's been some news of that at least, but there's been absolutely no updates in terms of any release date, any start of filming or casting. Like there's been nothing. So I hope some news comes out soon. I think the only thing I saw was that there was an article that said that I believe Serena Williams was gonna be, I don't know what they call them. I think there's a term for it, but she was gonna be basically an on-set expert, and I think also help with like the production of Carrie Soto, which makes sense to bring in a huge tennis player to be an expert for a show that's gonna be about a fictional tennis player. So hopefully that one at least, maybe there'll be a little more news. But any of TGR's books that I just mentioned would honestly make the best TV shows. Okay, everyone, so the last one that I have written down for today is really a recent favorite of mine, very personally, and that is The Divine Rivals, or The Letters of Enchantment duology by Rebecca Ross. This one's interesting because, as you guys know, I've said it before, I have a bad memory. So I definitely do not remember every single like plot detail and thing that happened in these two books. But for some reason, I think about this series, like it's on one that's on the back of my mind so often. I think I just think about our main characters from this series so much, and the romance and just the overall relationship they had. And there was something very grand and sweeping about this storyline and the world that Rebecca Ross was able to build, especially because, again, I love the writing so much. This one, so beautiful, so lyrical, so full of like this slow like yearning and desire, again, between our main characters. And at least for me, this one, again, because it had this kind of grand, epic scope, is that the word you would use? I feel like it would just translate better to a movie and to just have a very continuous storyline instead of having to, I guess, split the storyline over a number of episodes. That's what I was gonna say. I feel like that's the difference between TV shows and movies, is that some books just have more of that feel of like you want the story just be continuous and I don't know, I guess just see it all in one sitting, versus a TV show is kind of something where, you only sit down probably an hour most of the time. You watch part of the storyline and then you have to wait for the next part to come out. Well, maybe not wait as long with streaming platforms nowadays, but even streaming platforms are doing weekly releases. So it's kind of similar to the days of cable where you had to wait. This one, just because of that, I definitely see it as a movie. But I think this one could also be really good because there's very minimal magical elements for a book that is like technically labeled as fantasy. Although again, I think I kind of mentioned it when I reviewed these books before, that they really read more as historical fiction. So I think they could just be really good on screen with all the war elements, and it could just be really, really good, in my opinion. And with that wraps up today's episode. I hope you guys enjoy getting to hear about some of these books that I think should be adapted to the screen. And this might sound a little bit delusional, but would it be weird to say that I hope that some of these could be adapted to the screen by 2026? But I guess we can always dream. Anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you think these books should also be adapted or not, or if there's any books that I didn't mention that you think should be adapted, then feel free to also comment those below or DM me. And maybe any books that I didn't talk about will give me some inspiration to do a part 2 of this type of episode if you guys would like to see that. And before we go, I just wanted to say that I have a lot more fun and video episodes coming out over the next little while. At least I think the episodes are fun, and came up with some good ideas for you guys to get to see and listen to, which is why, if you haven't already, you should go and subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel, which is always linked in the description or show notes. so you can get notified immediately when I do upload, and also it is free. And yeah, it's just another way for all of you to engage more with the podcast and again, get to see when I do post video episodes. But other than that, I just wanted to say I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you back here for episode 42. Hey guys, so I am back because I realized I forgot to say in the outro before that there actually is going to be no uploads next week. So normally I would have another episode for you guys out this coming Friday, June 27th, and then correspondingly on July 1st. Should be the next one. But in order to take a bit of a break and enjoy some of the summer holidays, especially because for me, Canada Day is coming up, I decided to take next week off. But having said that, we will be back to regular programming as of July 4th and 8th correspondingly, assuming all goes according to plan with recording and everything. But you guys can always feel free to follow me along on my socials. I have Instagram and TikTok where I also do post other content pretty regularly for you guys to continue following along on my reading journey. But with all that being said, I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you were able to take away something, and be sure to follow the podcast for more bookish content. Until next time, stay fully booked, and I'll talk to you soon.